You know, there are parts of the Bible that I work very hard at avoiding, at completely blocking out, because they make me so uncomfortable when I read them. And one of those happens to take place in one of the accounts of Jesus' life that we refer to as the Gospel or the Good News written by Matthew in chapter 6. And it begins in verse 19. And here's where my skin really starts to crawl. Jesus says this, talking to a big group of people. He says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal." Now, when I read that, my mind immediately goes to the termites that we discovered were eating up our house. You know, California is all about real estate, and real estate is all about appreciation, and nothing turns appreciation into depreciation like about 1 million termites chewing the back end off your home while you're sitting in the living room watching a movie or something, and how we had to bring in weapons of mass destruction to kill these termites to preserve what we had invested in. And when I read these words, I hear Jesus saying that basically the world is a giant termite farm. That no matter what you buy, what you charge, or what you own, no matter what value is attached to it or how many zeros you have at the end, you're still sitting in the living room watching the movie, and the termites are chewing the back end off of what you have. And that you can never own anything big enough to outrun the termites, because there's one of you and bazillions of them. I get that part. It's the next few words that make me nervous. "For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be." You mean that you can know what's in my heart by reading my checkbook ledger? You can know what's in my heart by looking at my credit card statement when it comes every month? You mean you can know what's in my heart by looking at my giving record at church? You can really tell what's inside me by knowing what I do with my finances? He goes on in verse 22, "The eye is the lamp of the body." Now, this is not to be allowed. We're mixing metaphors now. You learned this in high school English. We're way out. We're coloring way outside the lines. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. That makes a lot of sense. But if your eye is bad, or that word can also mean divided, like double vision almost, seeing more than one thing, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? When I read this, my mind goes to the day I started seeing flashes of light that weren't there. And I knew this was not a good thing. I'd never experienced anything like it. I was really scared, so I called my HMO. You know, HMO? When you call, you wait days, weeks, months, sometimes to see the person that you need to see, because in managed healthcare, that's how they have to do it to meet their budgets. And I called the nurse and gave a description of my symptoms. I'm seeing these flashing lights, streaks. It's like a meteorite shower, but in the daytime is how you experience it. And they asked me these detailed questions about which direction the flashes were moving, which is not really something I'm worried about. I'm worried about that I'm having them, and they tell me you've got to come in right now. Because they know if something goes wrong with my eye, then my whole body is full of darkness. I can break my finger, I can wreck my thumb playing basketball, and the rest of me will still work. But if my eyes go bad, I'm stuck. And so Jesus mixes the metaphor, and what he says is that this is the same way that material things relate to us. You know, did you know you have a relationship with your phone? That you guys are sort of dating, kind of? In fact, some people, you're almost married, really. Like if you have your phone and you married somebody else, it would be polygamy, because your technology is so close to your heart, and the Lord's using this metaphor of the eye and saying, when you look on things, you look on people, do you look on them with a single, loving, sort of a generous eye, a whole eye, and in that your whole being is filled with light? Or are you divided? Or are you looking on people, but at the same time you're looking at stuff with that sort of double vision effect, so that people and what can be done for them never has your full attention, because the stuff has the rest of it. The stuff that the termites are chewing the back end off of. Then he wraps it up this way. No one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money, or it would be correct enough to interpret that last word as God and stuff, God and possessions, God and things, God and iPhones, God and Nikes, God and cars, God and season tickets to the Golden Bears football games, God and stuff. These passages really hit me the other day when I was at a mall. Not a nice one. And I had reached the conclusion walking through the mall that I am so tired of being cold in the East Bay. Is anyone else tired of being cold? What is the situation here? The sun is shining outside. My phone, which I am married to, by the way, it's Janet's sister wife. My phone tells me that it is 72 degrees outside. The sun is blazing down like we're in the desert, and I am in a shadow up against the cement wall, freezing like I'm in the yard at the state pen. I mean, what is going on here? I'm just cold all the time. I've been here for 3 years. I've never acclimated to it, and I've gotten this jacket, that jacket. I'm still cold in everything, and so I'm at the mall and thinking, what I need is a big street-style, black, urban, puffy jacket. I mean, like a drug lord jacket. I mean, like a powerfully, I'm street cred, just like rugged, right in there, but with no fur. No fur. And so I'm pawing through all this stuff, looking through all this, and my wife, my patient wife, is with me, and she says, as we're talking about this, and I reflect that I'm looking for stuff just the same way my father did at this age. And she says, don't worry, one day your obsession with jackets is going to lift, the spell's going to be broken, and I'm believing God that you're going to be free. So I'm going through all these wrecks feeling like I need an intervention, like, Earl, we love you, but we love you too much to let you get another jacket. So I'm pawing around and I'm thinking to myself, here I am looking for another jacket so I can tweak up my level of warmth here in the East Bay, while there are people around the world who don't have anything to wear. And when I have that thought and I hear Jesus' words, you know what I do? Here's my theological response. La 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 la. I don't want to hear that. I want to block that out. Please don't disturb me. Don't point me to the termites that are going to chew the back off of this another jacket. If I get that, leave me alone. I la 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 la. Now Jesus says these words to a group of people who are also doing the la la thing. It's the early years of his teaching ministry in the northern part of Palestine, the region called Galilee. He's walking up and down the roads, going from one village to the next. John the Baptist, his cousin, has just announced that God is about to do something incredibly special in this first century era, that this is going to be so special that people need to repent of their sins, that is to turn their back on the ways that they are alienated from God and to run towards God, to signify that by being baptized in water and to actually change their lifestyles radically. And get this, that's just to prepare for what's happening. It turns out that thing that's going to happen is a person, not an idea, a person named Jesus. He bursts on the scene at around 30 years old and he starts teaching that the kingdom of God turns everything upside down and brings words like this, like we just read this morning. He backs those teachings up with acts of power, miracles that no one has ever seen anything like this. And people are amazed because his words they're authoritative. They have strength. They have a heart and a core to them that they just don't hear from the religious teachers of the day who are basically recycling each other's best quotes. Like everything is a retweet of a retweet of a retweet. Jesus comes and he speaks like a primary source, something that's never been tweeted before but should be tweeted by everyone. That's how people hear him. And so this gets up a crowd. You know, you hit town with some radical new teaching and you start doing acts of power, healing sick people, you're going to get up a following, and they start to flock to them, and they're following it from one little village to another. And Matthew chapter 5 says there was a huge crowd around him one day, and so he went up on a hillside, a mountain, Matthew said, and sat down to teach. And you can almost in your mind see the people being seated around him on the grass, a kind of a natural amphitheater sort of an effect. And Matthew records that his 12 closest followers, the people we call the disciples these days, came up and got all around him, almost like their way of saying, yeah, we're with him. Power man, that's our guy. In fact, we're his entourage. We're close. We're just like this. The amazing teacher guy, we're right up here with him. And so there, you see them almost edging up close to Jesus to get as close to celebrity as they possibly can. Like people who follow a rock band but aren't really part of it. They just wear the t-shirt. At this point, that's all these guys are, and really not a whole lot more. They've invested in following Jesus, but they probably don't have a lot of idea yet about what that means. So he gets all these people around them, and he starts giving this amazing talk. In the recorded form that we have, it kind of goes all over the place. It's about sin, and it's about anger, and it's about lust, and it's about divorce, and it's about oaths, and it's basically about how when the kingdom of God breaks into your life, everything that you thought gets flipped over. That every apple cart goes over 100% when God shows up and becomes real and becomes the center of your world and everything that you are. And in the course of all of this, he has before him huge numbers of people, all of whom probably hear these words that we've just read with their hands over their ears. Think of it this way. There are two groups of people in the crowd, the 1%ers and the 99%ers.
That's right.
The 99%ers, who are the average person in the ancient world, where poverty is endemic. It's virtually universal. There's only a handful of people that rise above it. The 99%ers, if I'm with them and I hear Jesus say words like this, you know what I think? To be honest with you, put it in reverse and back it up, pal. You're teaching us about the dangers of possessions, and we don't have any. We are poor. What does it mean to discipline me for being materialistic when I'd love to be greedy, but I don't have anything to really crave because I don't own anything and I have no means for getting it? Or as the LA occupiers put it, I got 99 problems and the rich got none. Now on the other side of the spectrum are the 1%ers. And they're listening to this in the full and certain knowledge that material wealth is the signature trait of the blessing of God. In other words, if you have a lot of stuff, this certifies God's approval of your life. Because you must be holy, and so therefore your net worth is very, very high. And so Jesus wades right into their world and says, you know, really? Remember the upside down thing I mentioned? It's really the opposite of that. And so the 1%ers are going to hear these words and say, put it in reverse and back it up. Because do you know how rare it is to achieve this kind of wealth? No one has this. I've got it, and there's no way I'm going to let some ramshackle rabbi from Galilee, where they're all a bunch of hillbillies, come down here from the trailer parks and tell me what I'm going to do to divest myself of everything I have worked so hard to achieve. These are essentially the two opinions that are sitting in front of him as he says, you can't serve God and money. we have to do something with that. If you're going to live the creative life and garner the rewards that the creative life can create, one of the things you have to navigate are those words. To try to answer the question, what am I going to do with success? This month we're going to talk about what it takes to navigate this life you're in. What it takes to put our arms around success and doing something more with it than letting it eat us alive. Now, there are a few ways you can try to come to terms with these words. And what I'm really doing here is not describing your thinking, I'm just describing some of my own defense mechanisms. One thing we can do is we can reject them. I mean, not in a nasty way, in a nice way. By listening to them, taking notes in our phone or iPad or however we prefer, filing them away, and simply going on about our lives as if they were never spoken. And in so doing, what I'm saying back is, yes, I can serve God in money. I disagree. And the way I'm showing you that I disagree is I'm ignoring you, Jesus. I'll simply walk away. I'll listen obediently, but then I'll simply walk back to my life and plunge back in, and I'll do nothing about this. And so thanks very much for the nice devotional thought and the warm feelings that it gives me. Thanks very much for allowing me to go, oh, soul searching, and then go right back to the Nike and North Face lifestyle that I've come to embrace. And that little moment of soul searching, I feel better. Like a good workout at the Y. And now I think I'll just do nothing about that. So thanks. It's been great knowing you. And I'm looking forward to the next moment of soul searching next week. I'd say most of the time that's my majority response. And when I came across this, I've been thinking about this all week. What a powerful ability to marginalize Jesus I have developed. What amazing defense mechanisms sometimes I use to listen to the words but keep the reality far away. Do you know what I mean by that? The kind of arm's length thing, like, ooh, boy, those words really sting. Ow, ow. See, where's that MasterCard again? You know, if 90 jackets is good, 100's got to be great. The other way we can deal with it is we can revise it slightly. And you usually hear this taught, or in my mind, the way it goes when I want to revise it is I usually will use words like what Jesus was really trying to say. And that's because he's not able to really express himself very well. So he needs my help to be able to, without my ability to paraphrase the words of the Son of God, he would be helpless without my interpretive powers, which are, massive, really, when I feel uncomfortable. What he's really trying to say is, you can't serve God in money. Well, that's really, double vision. It's all just so stark. Really what's going on here is he's trying to say just, it really is okay to serve God in money. Just don't be a pig about it. And so when I stand in line buying a $3 cup of coffee, knowing that 1 billion people live on less than $1 a day, I'm supposed to be good with that. Because what he's really trying to say is as long as you're not like super greedy and ostentatious, as long as you keep your stuff and your wealth in forms that aren't overtly glamorous, in sort of that anti-glam style that we have here in the East Bay, as long as you make sure that everything's sort of carefully hidden away and you're not driving to work in a limo, it's all good. Because what I really meant to say, Earl, wasn't that you couldn't serve God in money. What I really meant to say is you couldn't serve God in money if money was too much, with too much. So it's what I'm really just saying is just don't be greedy about it, but it is fine to have two masters. It's all good. Sometimes that fails though. And so there are moments when I feel like what we need to do is not reject this or revise it, but revolutionize it. And here Jesus is saying this. People who don't have much don't have a lot because you have too much. That the world is an economic zero-sum game, and the only way for people who don't have a lot to have more is for you to have less. And so if you would sell your second car, cash out the ski lodge at Tahoe, just dreaming there, just dreaming, just a little fantasy moment. If you would liquidate your investment portfolio, if you would cannibalize your child's college fund, if you would have 4 pairs of shoes instead of 8, and take the cash difference and invest it in charitable causes or in something that you know that would help people, like the 40,000 poor people that some observers estimate are dying from malnutrition and preventable disease every 24 hours. It's the equivalent of dropping an atomic bomb every 3 days. If you would invest in those needs and quit being such a Western consumerist, capitalist, consumptivist pig, and let the rest of everybody have just a few fragments from the table even, the world would be a better place. Now, you might live like a college student forever. It could be all Goodwill clothing and ramen noodles for the rest of your life. And you could raise your children on Goodwill clothing and ramen noodles and flip-flops made from recycled snow tires. But people who don't have much would have more, and the world would be spared all this suffering. La 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 la. Said, you gotta meet me halfway here, Jesus. I am a perfectly good white boy from the suburbs. I'm a mall rat. I am. You can't lay that heavy thing on me, man. I don't have the categories for this. You know what I mean? I mean all about North Face and Nike and brands and Amazon and, you know, like with the free shipping especially, and buying extra stuff to get above $25 so all the junk I don't need is free when it arrives. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's not my fault that people that don't have much don't have it. Let them get their own Amazon. I don't want all that guilt. I don't want to think every time I hold a cup of Starbucks in my hand that's wages for 3 days for someone in a sweatshop somewhere that I'll never meet, someone with children, someone whose wife and kids are probably also working in some kind of sweatshop someplace, maybe producing one of the brands that I love to consume here in the northern or western or whatever hemisphere you want to choose. When I hear you talk like this, Jesus, it's like you're the big socialist in the sky, and socialism's just wrong, man. Everybody knows that. This is America, buddy. We're capitalists here. Come on, invisible hand, you know. When I think of it this way, I find the guilt paralyzing. I find it hard to act because I feel so terrible about myself, and I feel so lousy about my life, and it makes me wonder if I've ever done anything just. If a tall drip at Starbucks is an act of cosmic injustice, have I ever done anything just? Well, usually the guilt from that's too much, so my favorite strategy for reinterpreting this verse is to project it. And this has been made very convenient recently by the avalanche of new research in sociology and some related fields about what money does to people ethically. Have you seen any of this? Some of it's just recently been done at Cal. Now, I wouldn't call this stuff conclusive, and I do find it suspicious that almost all of it has found its way into popular media since the Occupy movement began. So there could be a connection here. I don't know what the rebuttal evidence is because not a lot of it is coming forth yet, but what I've seen so far simply says that wealth creates what one sociologist calls an ideology of self, in which because I'm financially independent and I don't need you anymore, and I'm not suffering, I stop caring because I can't empathize. It kind of has a common sense appeal, doesn't it, that sort of conclusion. The result of that is two things among the wealthy in some of this recent research. One is they're more likely to have unethical conduct than people who don't have money. And they're less likely to be empathetic to people who suffer. So when I put myself into the creative life, which is the decision I make when I come to Cal or work in this part of the world, in fact, when I make the decision to enter that life, I'm making the decision to confront those pressures. The pressures that say that because I'm a have, the have-nots don't matter to me anymore. Or they have not because they're undeserving. The invisible hand benefits me because, well, frankly, why wouldn't it? One sociologist in exasperation I was reading yesterday said, we've measured this in every way known to science. And it turns up the same way every time. When you achieve wealth, your ethical sensitivity drops. Now, social science is my background. I love this kind of thing, and the reason I love this research is because it is about other people. Hallelujah. Because I am not wealthy, ergo, I am not selfish. God has delivered me. I can go back to the mall and it's Nike and North Face until I can't stand anymore, until I choke on Gore-Tex jackets, until I run 1,000 miles in $400 running shoes. It's fantastic. It's unbelievable because we've now given evil a name, and the name is the wealthy. And since I'm never going to be a part of that club, I mean, I could be, but the odds are about like an asteroid strike killing me. I don't have to worry about it because this will never be my lot in life, and I am now made ethically pure by my social standing, so that being in the middle class or below now becomes a guarantor of your value as a human being because it keeps you from the temptations that are only available through massive wealth. Oh, thank the Lord that this has not been my lot. But I don't think really making this somebody else's problem is a valid way out. I still can't serve God in money. I'd like to show you a number. 51,400. This is the median income of a Cal graduate 5 years after the day you walk the line, assuming you do not go directly to graduate school. In 10 years, it will be about twice that much. Now, my first thought, let's see, a house in California, what's my mortgage going to be? $3,000 a month, so that's in Social Security. I'm already on credit cards, and I haven't even gotten the first paycheck. You know, one of the great things about free market theory and the invisible hand and all of that is that over time, and in some ways this is true, markets don't lie over the long haul. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. And this is what the system that we're all wanting to be part of says that you are worth. This is what the system is going to offer you for 80-hour weeks, for both of the divorces you'll have, for your nervous breakdown and all the therapy you're going to need. This is what the market says they can buy your soul for. Now the good news is you're going to be a millionaire, but just not in any one year. It's going to take more like 2 or 3 decades, then you're going to be a millionaire in an accumulative sense. The bad news is somebody thinks they have your number. This is what we can have you for. And what we want you to do is we want to buy you for this and slave you to a life in which we will allow you to worship God in mind. We'll let you have an undivided eye because that's no problem for us. It's all good. But the system doesn't tolerate someone who won't be bought. It doesn't tolerate someone who wants to see it with a single eye. I mean, you can reject or revise or revolutionize or project or all that stuff. Those are all the defense mechanisms I use. So here's where I'm at with my next trip to the mall. I think what I've got to do is wrestle with this. Because the economy that Jesus is describing, it's kind of an invisible hand, all right, but it's God's hand. And it's built around the question of, is this something God values? When I'm standing there about to make a purchase, is this something God values? When I'm deciding how to set up my household budget, is this something God values? When I'm looking at investments, is this something God values? When I'm thinking about where I'm going to live and how I'm going to spend my life, how I invest my time, my energy, is this something God values? I don't know that we were really meant to have an easy bullet point answer to that. Because I think we've got to work it out pragmatically, a situation at a time. If I focus my life on answering that question, my life's going to come out of a relationship with God. It's going to be formed around a relationship with God and not formed around my own selfishness or formed around some new set of rules, some new financial religion and its own rules, its own Pharisees, its own teachers. But it's going to be formed around what pleases the heart of God. I'm going to ask our band to come and lead us in some worship for a few moments. And as they do, would you stand with us? I want to ask you to do this as we're asking the Lord to speak to us this morning. Just one purpose here for these few moments. In your heart, let's just for a couple minutes just take our hands off our ears and not go la 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 la. Let's take our hands off our ears and ask the Lord to speak something to you that you can hear in your heart, that you can know, that you can take hold of, and to keep that question of what He values alive in you in a powerful and a strong way. We're going to just surrender our defense mechanisms here for just a moment and just let the Lord put whatever needs to be in our heart in that place. If you'd like to have someone pray with you today about anything in particular, we'll have some of our leaders on either side of our worship space here. Be glad to do that, and we'll come back in for our close.